Welcome, colleagues. Let's jump right in. What we're delivering today is a crucial explainer. Think of it as a strategic briefing on exactly how we integrate AI into our medical training programs, absolutely without sacrificing our trainees' independent clinical reasoning. We're drawing directly on the latest AMC frameworks, the Stanford curriculum, and our own faculty handbook. The goal today is clear, authoritative, and above all, practical guidance, because we really need to position ourselves as the national leaders in medical AI pedagogy.
Look at this concept for a second, because it really hits the nail on the head. We are facing a very real, looming threat of cognitive de-skilling in our trainees. I mean, if an algorithm can instantly recall a million medical facts, the baseline value of a doctor fundamentally changes, right? Rote memorization is no longer the hallmark of a great physician. We absolutely must pivot our pedagogy to meet this moment. We need to train our learners for the very top of that cognitive pyramid: analysis, synthesis, and evaluation, especially when they're navigating clinical ambiguity.
So consider this explainer your boots-on-the-ground faculty playbook. We're going to walk through 5 core pillars to successfully navigate the 2026 academic year: the 2026 ACGME Bridge, protecting the cognitive struggle, scaffolding for trainees, rethinking assessment, and finally, the irreplaceable human element.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the 2026 ACGME Bridge, and how our very definition of competency is evolving.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting. We are totally moving past those legacy metrics of just individual human recall. Instead, we're embracing this new construct called collaborative intelligence, or CI, as our new baseline for clinical excellence. This is what we call a dyad-centric model. It's no longer just about the human, and it's sure not just about the AI. It is entirely about the emergent capabilities of the human-AI team working together to critically appraise data and execute adaptive judgment. So, the crucial takeaway here is that the ACGME is actively pivoting. The focus is shifting heavily toward practice-based learning and improvement, or PBLI. Our role as faculty isn't just to teach the right medicine anymore. It's to forge lifelong learners who can effectively navigate and actually lead these algorithmic systems, all while retaining their absolute independent authority over patient care. Which leads us straight into Section 2, protecting the cognitive struggle. This brings us to a massive risk we are seeing on the wards right now. Looking at the cognitive science, there are 2 distinct threats here. Threat 1 is descaling. That's the erosion of existing skills in senior clinicians simply because they stop practicing them. But threat 2 is the real danger for our medical students: upskilling inhibition. This happens when a learner literally misses the opportunity to develop foundational competencies in the first place just because an AI provided a polished answer way too early. If these tools do all the heavy lifting, our learners miss out on the mental germane load, that essential friction they actually need to consolidate their clinical capability. So how do we fight back? Well, this outlines our primary defense mechanism, the mandatory commit, then compare workflow. And let me tell you, this is the evidence-based gold standard for 2026. Step 1, the trainee absolutely must commit to their own differential diagnosis and plan. Step 2, only then are they allowed to query the AI tool. And Step 3, they compare their output with the algorithm to find their own cognitive gap. It literally forces the learner to document their intuition and do the hard mental work before the algorithm ever speaks a word.
Moving right along to Section 3, scaffolding for clinical trainees and staged AI access.
We have to strictly stage AI access to match the learner's developmental level. As faculty, we have to act as the more knowledgeable other. You can't just hand a first-year everything. For a novice, Level 1 access restricts the AI purely to basic data summarization. By the time they hit clerkship at Level 2, the AI steps up to act as a reasoning coach, maybe prompting the student with questions like, "Hey, why did you rule out this condition?" Finally, for senior resident at Level 3, the AI functions as a guardian angel, analyzing their complex, fully formed human plans just to check for rare oversights.
But listen, here's the reality check for Section 4. None of this matters if we do not fundamentally rethink our medical assessment strategies.
Teaching this way means absolutely nothing if we're still relying on that legacy paradigm of multiple-choice questions that just test rote memorization. Generative AI can accomplish those tasks instantly and usually perfectly. Honestly, if our assessments can be easily passed by an algorithm, they aren't testing what makes a physician valuable anymore. We are moving decisively to the 2026 paradigm: AI-resistant, oral, and heavily observed competency evaluations.
So what do these high-stakes summative evaluations actually look like now? Well, we have to shift to formats that evaluate genuine human capability.
That means rigorous oral examinations, direct bedside observations, and real-time clinical simulations. We also highly recommend script concordance testing, or SCT. This deliberately introduces conflicting or ambiguous data to really probe a learner's judgment in the clinical gray zones. Because let's face it, that is where collaborative intelligence truly lives.
And that brings us to our final pillar, Section 5, the irreplaceable human element. As educators, we have to constantly hit pause and ask our learners this incredibly critical question. When do we trust our gut over the algorithm? If a computer system tells us one thing, but the patient's narrative, their very real fear, or just a subtle physical finding tells us another, we have to know how to critically appraise and override the machine. This is exactly how we combat dangerous automation bias on the front lines.
Because AI has this really dangerous habit called sycophantic confidence. That's where a model will just blindly agree with your premise or provide a completely wrong answer with absolute persuasive certainty. The only counter to this is what we call metacognitive calibration, and AI absolutely cannot teach that. Only a seasoned faculty mentor can teach that black box of clinical intuition required to recognize sycophantic confidence, step in, and override it.
To wrap up this explainer, I want you to remember this core truth. Empathy, emotional self-awareness, and moral judgment, you literally cannot code that. When a terrified patient looks up at a trainee and asks, "Am I going to be okay?" an algorithm cannot hold that space for them. Technology has to serve, rather than dictate, the ethical commitments of our profession. So the question I'll leave you with today is this. Are you prepared to step up as the clinical conductor and the mentor to ensure that algorithms enhance, rather than replace, the humanistic core of medicine? Thank you so much for joining us for this explainer.